Oh shit, I see it. Here it is.
Are we there?
So,
Okay. Oh, it's the Chelsea theme song. It's the Chelsea theme song. Hey. That was a good choice, Heather. That
Thank
was
you.
I Don't Fuck With You by Big Sean. We are Reads and Weeds. I'm Shelly. I'm here with author Heather J.
hello.
Yeah. And she's in LA, and I'm in Ipsy. And Claire, what's your exact address?
Technically, it's an
What's your-
Ann Coastal.
Oh, okay. Well, Claire's back, and we're here today talking about Heather J's book, Maybe Shorty Should Be a Detective. And we loved it. Totally loved it. Thought it was so super fun.
Yes.
Thank you.
So lots of catching up to do. Welcome to Reads and Weeds. If you've never joined us before, we smoke weed and talk about books. That's it, really.
Maybe have a drink or five as well.
Yeah, just water for me, but I do have a little pipe here, which I got harassed about today. Claire, I've been working on a weed farm.
I
And
saw your vid. I need some beats at some point. And
yeah, it's real. Oh yeah, you've been in that game before, but like I'll tell you, of all the things, all the different things I've done in the industry, standing underneath a 10-foot tall cannabis plant and pruning all day it's delightful.
peak.
It's peak.
Industry.
And just wearing the same sweaty ass, dirty, weed smelling clothes every day. And then heading out and going to like Office Max in them.
Let me tell you, walking around.
Does anybody smell
like
weed? I'm like,
fresh ass cannabis. There's nothing quite like stinking like a motherfucker, like
it's
some
good.
Yummy shit. So
It's really lovely. It's really lovely. So that's where I was earlier, and she's in LA, so I'm assuming it's lovely. But in Ann Arbor right now, it's 130% humidity.
It's too hot.
It's too hot. It's too hot. And it's like overcast, so it seems like it should be cool, but it's not. It's sweaty.
Supposed to rain, but
but it's not.
Michigan, August is always just. It's like you're in a shower. It's like you're just in the shower after you finish.
Yeah.
Here is more desert heat and mountain. It gets hotter as you get higher. So
Yeah.
I'm like on the verge of the mountain. So it's like 90-some degrees out here with sun, and it's not. It might look prettier in a picture, but it's actually really hot, really uncomfortably hot.
It's real hot. I've lived there before. I lived in LA County. I lived in Palmdale. I lived in LA area a couple times. I don't remember much about it.
A couple of times. Me too.
It was a long time ago.
Me too. A couple times.
Okay.
I'll be back home next week though, so I'm coming home next week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, trying to get some August humidity.
Oh, good. Good. Does your hair get any curlier, or is it maxed out curl right now?
This is maximum curl, but it's gonna shrink. It's gonna get.
It'll shrink up. It'll
the moisture just shrink it right up. Yeah, but the curls are the same.
Okay, so we are talking about. So first of all, Heather J, if you are ignorant of this fact, is an amazing comedian, and she's actually done the Medicine show once or twice, right?
It was dope.
It's great. And she was, how long ago did you move to LA, and why did that journey, how'd you end up there?
I don't know.
Good answer.
Once a week. I'm just like, why am I here? Like once a week, I say this to myself. I came out here to get an agent and a manager and just kind of take my comedy to the next level.
Yeah.
And hopefully find somebody to help me with the book, push the book, maybe
Yeah.
a literary agent. So I couldn't decide between New York and LA. But New York winters are so terrible. And
Yeah.
I was like, Michigan winters are bad, but we get in our car. New York winters are bad and they're walking. You
And
know
they're
what I mean? And I was just
walking.
like, the coldest I've ever been in my life was February in New York. And I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
I was just like, no, we've done snow. Let's do some sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it gets cold here too, but it's not, you know, it's not bone chilling cold like Michigan. It's just like regular, put a jacket on cold
Yeah.
out here in the winter.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's kind of how I got. And then COVID hit, and I was just like, where's my support bubble? My
Uh,
I
support bubble
know.
is in, you know, so.
so you moved recently.
No, I've been moving for 5 years. It took me, I started in 2015, going, like, I'd come out here for a month, I'd go back, you know.
She's moving one state at a time.
Yeah, and then 2016, I came and did another couple months. In 2017, so 2018, I think is when I came for good and got a job and, you know, started paying bills. Because you don't live somewhere till you pay bills there.
That's true. That's true.
Until you paying bills there, you're a tourist.
Right. That's true. That's true. You're just visiting.
Right.
So I remember you talking about writing this book, and I want to get into. I had so much fun with this book. I'm telling you. So the other day on Michigan radio, there was a maybe you heard this story. It was Walter Mosley, and it was 3 African American mystery writing kind of authors talking about cops and how cops are written, and it was this great thing. And I was in the middle of reading your book, and I was like, oh, they should know about this. Like, this book is funny, and it's a different take on characters that I've seen before, like as far as a detective. So I just thought it was a blast. I thought it was a blast. So it's available digitally, or you can call Heather and give her money every 10 minutes and she'll read it aloud to you. That's right? Isn't it $10 a minute for you to read aloud? Isn't that it?
That's more expensive than porn.
Right. Well, I'm saying some people are probably into it. There's probably a reading your book to me fetish site that's just.
You stay.
It's that's true. That's true. It's like I heard you read to people. You're like, oh, I do. What do you want to? You can read your own book. Is highly specific, but there's some creeps out there that are like, read me a soup label, or just whatever.
Read me a Batman comic.
Read me those bone broth soup ingredients real slow. Just had some bone broth soup. That's why that came up. So
Bone broth is the best.
It's the shit. It's broth made. It sounds so Wiccan.
It does. It sounds disgusting. It sounds super disgusting. Like my friends, when I used to drink it every day, and my friends would be like, "That sounds nasty." And I'm like, "It's just chicken broth. Like it's not that deep. It's just chicken broth."
Right. They changed it when they went from like witches standing over a cauldron making it to like companies making it. They're like, maybe we don't need to reference the fact that it's bones. Our American culture isn't really comfortable with the fact that we eat animals. They want to do it, but they don't want to.
It used to just be called chicken soup.
Yeah, bone broth. Bone broth.
Yeah, now it's called bone broth.
Bone broth. Claire,
Yes.
Can you give saying bone broth just a quick shot, because it feels really good.
Bone broth.
Right?
Bone.
Fun to say. It's fun to say. Okay, so the article on NPR was having. I'll try to look it up and put that in the comments somewhere, because their take was like, we need more people from everywhere, of every kind of background, writing about cops and detectives and everything in different and new ways, right? And that was their push, like little kids that grew up on Cops and Robbers, or do you know what I mean? Good guy, bad guy type. The role that cops took in their mind from TV and books has got to change, if not already changing. And how do we highlight the authors that already write about it in some way that is at least unique, at least unique. And so because your book was funny and the characters are like so human, do you know what I mean? Like nobody's elevated to a status of like superhero cop or anything. They're all
Yeah.
just humans, and there's real relationships in there, and there's gray area of like what's right and wrong, and then I love the fact that it's just this area. It's so
Yeah.
fun writing about this area, you know, 'cause, and you straight up used Melanie Hearn's name in there.
Everybody's name is in my book.
Everybody's Kool-Aid's in there,
Everybody's
isn't
name
he?
is in my book. It's
Yes.
when I'm thinking of a name, Shelly. Fucked up. Like that's what I do. Like that's what I do. So Melanie, I knew she would get a kick out of that.
Yes,
So I
yes.
did that for her. But
Yes.
Toddy Bester is actually my cousin's name. Her name,
Oh,
her name is Tasha, but we call her Toddy. And she's
Yes.
very strong-willed and very comfortable in her womanhood.
Sure.
And so I kind of borrowed that from her. She's not a cop, but she is very strong and she's not afraid. And so I kind of pulled, and Shantae is the girl who Chelsea was fighting with since high school.
Yes.
That's one of my dear friends that passed away, and I kind of wanted to have her name in there. So I was like, oh,
yes.
Or
Oh,
whatever.
that's great.
Detective Wu is a comedian from Detroit that passed away a few years ago. So he was very tall. He looked like a basketball player.
Oh my gosh.
And he was, here's the thing about Wu. Wu stayed in trouble with the law. So to make him a cop was funny to me.
Yes.
That was funny. So that was like something that was just like if you get it, you get it. If you don't, it's okay. But if you get it, you'll be like, it's Wu, you know.
Yes, it's all these inside jokes. It's kind of like, because I only knew a couple of the inside jokes, and I was like, oh, I bet there's so many, because you know I don't know you that well.
Eggs, right?
What?
That's what they call that in like video games, the Easter eggs, kind of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So okay, so Heather, this is Claire. Claire's done a bunch of these shows.
I'm just like so excited. I'm just like staring at you. You're so beautiful. I'm just like, oh my god, like I can't believe I'm talking to her. I love her. I mean, like I don't know. Do I have questions? I don't even know anymore. Like, no, I just love hearing you talk about it. And obviously, I don't know many of the name references, but you know, I am familiar enough with Detroit to feel that sense of like, oh, maybe I can kind of see it a little bit more vividly from, you know, a made up place or somewhere I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I loved it. The characters were so real, and like I just felt like the dialogue was so true, and you know, both snappy, but just like also the mundane. You know, it like was a really good balance of this is a mystery story, but also this is like, you know, setting up the characters. I thought there were so many really lovely details about the individuals that just made it so rich. Like there's an image of, and I'm always terrible with remembering characters' names for whatever reason. But her best friend, the guy next door,
Snap or Devin.
Okay, like I had this image of him when he like jumps on the windshield, and they're like, it's kind of a serious moment, but he just like, kind of jumps out, and I'm just like, oh my god, these people are so real and so vivid. So that was like one of the things that I wanted to say, just as far as
thank you.
Yeah, what really stuck out to me about the book. But I mean, the other thing that I kind of wanted to, I mean, a large question that I wanted to talk or have you sort of talk about was the format, because I mean, I love having a hard copy. And in this case in particular, I really wanted one because I'm that person who's like, you got to read this book, and then I give it to people, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna have to send it to the people on Kindle or whatever. But
I can send you a copy. I just didn't want to. I'm pushing digital because of COVID.
Yeah,
so
no,
you know. But I used to keep hard copies of the book and sell them all the time.
Well,
but now people just go straight to Amazon because I don't want to touch them.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't want anybody concerned. I don't want to hear any crap. So it's like, I don't want somebody a year from now, like, I got COVID because I bought your book. Like, I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? I'm just like,
Completely.
yeah,
And
get it from Amazon.
Well, I will order one from you if you do have some. I would love.
Yeah, I'll get your book, no problem.
Sign me one. I am like that nerd that I would, if it's possible for me to get one signed by the author. I always love that. But it really, there's this book reminded me of another book, and I should have looked it up before I got on here. But there's a book by a Nigerian writer about two sisters. One of the sisters is like a serial killer, basically. Did I read that with Kelly, or did I read it with someone else? I have 3 book clubs, so I don't always.
It doesn't sound like one of ours. It doesn't sound like one of ours.
Okay, so it's called My Sister the Serial Killer.
Man, that sounds great.
I'm gonna really fuck up her name. Oyinkan Braithwaite, I guess this Oyinkan Braithwaite, and so apparently this was a really popular ebook in Nigeria that got so popular it ended up getting printed. So I just thought that was really like it's like among a genre of these kinds of like kind of easy, snappy reads. I mean, in so many ways felt like your book. So I was like, oh my God, I wonder if this is like kind of in that tradition of writing these really like what would be called like a vernacular, right? A vernacular, colloquial, like you can read it on the train. The chapters are really short. You know what I mean? There's this a fast pacedness about it. Like you don't have to, I mean, there's confusion, but that's part of it. So if you kind of pick up and you like weren't told, it's the kind of thing that's an easy read, right? So I was kind of wondering about that, but it does for me just bring up larger questions of accessibility of stories and literature in general, and that if we're, like, who's to say that books have to be like complicated and, like, oh, we're gonna have big words and what? Nobody fucking wants that. This is what people want. This is what people want to read. This is what people relate to. So I don't know. There's a question in there somewhere, but just like
I think James Patterson started that. Honestly, I think James Patterson. Because his chapters were always really short. You would get a little bit of the perception from the killer, then back to the detective, then back to the killer, and you kind of would piece together. And you had no idea what was going on until the end. And you just kind of went on this little journey, like, okay, now I'm in her head, now I'm in his head, now okay, but the chapters were so short, you didn't get overwhelmed. You could put it down and come back to it. And I really think that's what he kind of introduced to the industry. And then we became a generation of bloggers, and that's what blogs are. Blogs are very colloquial. Blogs are just, yo, y'all, what's up? This is what I'm feeling. Whatever. Boom. Nobody. It wasn't journalistically sound. It was just what I'm thinking. And then this is kind of how we evolved as writers. And I definitely think that was it for me, because I blogged for a long time, and I just got very comfortable in my own voice, not the voice I thought people wanted to hear.
Yeah. So tell me about, because I've known you as a comedian for a long time now. I mean, just from Ann Arbor, Detroit area stuff. And we've done shows together here and there randomly. Have you ever done 50 First Jokes?
Every time you did it, I couldn't do it.
Oh, shit. Is that right? Oh, my God. I feel like we've done some other type of festival, like the Detroit Comedy Festival. I mean, the Motown or the Women of Comedy.
We've done some things,
Yeah. But so I didn't realize you were writing a book that was getting ready to come out, and then I loved it so much. And then, so what I'm wondering is, like, were you like the Law and Order fan? Are parts of you Chelsea? Like, were you the Law and Order kid that was like wanting to be a crime solver, wanting to be a Nancy Drew? Like, how did you start writing about this particular thing instead of just Detroit comedy or whatever? Like, how did this become your thing?
I love detective books. As a kid, I read Encyclopedia Brown and Trixie Belden and the Hardy Boys. And then I graduated to Agatha Christie's, and that was always a fun little time in my life when I could just go in the house. I was never really a big outside kid. I wasn't a gamer because they weren't the way they are now. But I was a book reader. I would go in the house and watch TV for hours or read books for hours. And so and then I could go outside and get down too. So I grew up in a neighborhood very similar to the one I described as Chelsea living in. My sister is very much like Carter. My sister left the block and she would rather live in a box on the freeway than move back to the ghetto. Like she's never gonna live in the ghetto.
Right.
Whereas me, my attitude was always like, people are people. I don't really care where I live.
Yeah.
And I've lived like when I moved out to LA, I lived in Inglewood for a year. Now I live in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like I don't care. Like I really don't care.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, the conversations I have with my sister are very similar, where she'll just, my sister's very elitist and she'll, she lives in West Bloomfield and she'll just, you guys, I'm not going to the ghetto. And I'm like, you were raised in one, shut up. Like, it's just like, like that's the kind of conversation we have. So I definitely wanted to draw a circle around the kind of person that is comfortable in the environment they were raised up in, just the way suburban people are comfortable in the environment they were raised up in. And the kind of person that a lot of people might walk past and say, what does she know? Or look at her, or look at her ponytail, or why is her hair red, or whatever, and completely miss the fact that she's the smartest person in the room. And that's what I wanted Chelsea to be an underdog. And when I thought of underdogs in Detroit, I'm like, everybody thinks the hood girl is like popping her gum and twerking. And it's like, she might just be the smartest person in the room.
Right.
And nobody
I love that character.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how she was. She's a little bit of my relationship with my sister. And we grew up in a two-parent family with a bougie mama, who kind of poured into us like, you're better than that, you're better than that. Or whatever. So we kind of had this voice in the back of our head, but nature versus nurture is strong. So no matter how I present, I can come to Ann Arbor and I can present, my name is Heather, woo woo, but I can also, be on the street like, what the fuck y'all talking about? I can develop, and I came to not be ashamed of that.
Yeah.
There was a time when it was like, no, you can't. And it was like, no, she's okay. They're both okay. Corporate Heather's okay, suburban Heather's okay, hood Heather's okay. They're all okay. And it's like, I need to be comfortable in all of them because they all shape me. And they all come in handy. They all come in handy.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, when you're saying that, I'm just like, it's so clear in your book that right, you're an expert code switcher, like you can really jump into that colloquialism and then like, the larger, being able to really uphold a somewhat complex narrative and, descriptions that are really vivid. So I just was like, it was all so smooth kind of, and jumping between the different perspectives and all of that kind of stuff. I just was like really in awe because, I forget sometimes how, just like I was saying before, like I forget how fulfilling something really, I don't want to, simple isn't the right word, but like something that really just like is straight to the point. Again, not makes sense, but that just like fits and is smooth. And I'm not like, wait, what happened? Who are we talking about now? Like, again, these things that are purposely trying to confuse you because then you're worthy of reading this like a height of fiction or whatever bullshit.
I think it's a mood. Like I think that's a mood. You know what I mean? You might want to read something really deep and introspective and feel smart. Whenever I read British literature or watch British shows, I'm constantly Googling what words mean. I'm like, what's that? What's that? What's that? You know what I mean? It's like, wow, that's a good word. Well, that's a great, make a note. That's a good one. You know what I mean? I like words. But then there's sometimes, then I just want to watch Love and Hip Hop and just want to watch these hoes fight.
Yes.
I don't want to have to. It's just like a mood. They're just moods. They're just moods.
Well, and we've talked about this on this show before. Maybe when we talked about the elements of fiction, I can't remember what book I think it's a recurring theme where we talk about authors that are good at giving you just enough to the reader, and the reader creates the whole rest of the world. There's just enough just enough of the world. You don't paint the entire picture, but it's like, oh, these people are neighbors, they're buddies, they're kind of in love, and they share greasy breakfast on Saturday morning, and
Yeah.
you know, have dance. They have like the dance off or whatever. They learn the dances, and you know just enough, and you're like, oh, I know those people.
Right,
Or
right.
I know that relationship. I know that
like
guy.
that.
I know that guy who dresses too. Do you know what I mean? Who spends too much money on his clothes for it to make sense, and everybody makes fun of him, but he thinks he's a
But the
badass.
thing
I'm
is,
like,
when you come into the city of Detroit and you really like just get comfortable, there's so many people like Carter French. Carter French, the dandy in Detroit is very common. There's just a guy. I can tell you where they shop. It's a clothing store on 7 Mile Livernois called Simply Casual. The owner, Rufus Bartell, who's a good friend of mine. Shout out to Rufus if you're watching.
Shout out to Rufus.
Rufus is a dandy. He's never not sharp as a tack. He's never. I've never seen him slipping. Even if he has on a t-shirt and jeans, it's like, how much were those jeans? Like he's a clothier. He's definitely in the business, but it's definitely a peak. That whole block of 7 Mile, you can get. People don't know this because everybody thinks Detroit is so poor. You can get a bespoke suit on 7 Mile and Livernois. A bespoke suit on 7 Mile and Livernois. And this man stays busy. He's a very nice man. He stays busy. He's never bored. He's always making a suit for someone. So it's like people don't. I knew that when I wrote about Detroit, people were going to have this image like, oh, they're all on crack. And it's like, no. They're Lexuses and Escalades and Shelby Mustangs. And I got Maybachs in the new book because it's like at the end of the day, that is real. Like that is the Detroit. I grew up in that Detroit. Even living in the heart of the ghetto, my mother shopped at Saks. Okay, so
yes.
He was coming out in Silk Donna Karen. Okay,
I know, and I love the descriptions. The descriptions of everybody and the pictures that you paint with even small characters like the recording studio murder. So, okay, let me pause for a second and
explain.
Did you guys
like me? Did you like me?
Let me pause for a second and explain that Maybe Shorty is a Detective is a detective book about a central female protagonist named Chelsea who's in Detroit, and it's about her world and her family, and she works at a grocery store, but it is revealed over and over again that she knows how to solve crimes, but she's not a cop, she's not a detective, and she has kind of a casual relationship with this power that she has. She's like
achiever too, which is really key.
She's an underachiever.
She's definitely an underachiever.
She's an underachiever. And
she's pregnant by a man in jail. Don't forget
and
that
she's
part.
pregnant by a man in jail. and she's the one that you're kind of hanging around looking at the world through, and it's great. It's so fun because she's such a character that's not, she's not trying to be a hero. She's not trying to be a supermodel. You know, she's just doing her thing. And the reason why, so you watch her go through, she's you know, solving some crimes sort of, and she's having relationships, and you're finding out about her past and the neighborhood and everything, and then it ends with a cliffhanger.
Well, the whole purpose was supposed to be she's kind of like you said, an underachiever. She doesn't want to do better. She's content where she is, even though everyone around her is like, you could be doing better. And she's like, I like my job. My house is paid off. I'm not hurting anybody. Leave me alone. She also lost her mother, and the loss of her mother is definitely impacting her movements. I don't know if you guessed, she's kind of going through a little funk. You know, she's kind of not at her best place, and then something happens that makes her have to step up. And so now you're getting, so the end of the book is a cliffhanger, but it's also the beginning of her saying, okay, fine, I'm going to be this person you guys want me to be. I'm going to do better. And so now book 2 is where you actually see her say, okay, fine, this is what you guys want. This is what I'm going to do. Ooh. So to you guys, it was a cliffhanger. To me, it was like, this is where, it was like an origin story for Sherlock and Detective Monk, because she's loosely based on Sherlock. I think they all are. Yes, where you have Snappers Watson, her brother is Lestrade. You know what I mean? She has her ex-boyfriend that comes out of nowhere, that kind of like knew who she
Adrian?
was.
Adrian?
No, Romeo.
Romeo. Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
Romeo's the
Because he's an
ex-boyfriend, right?
overachiever. He's an
Romeo's an
overachiever.
overachiever, right? So that was their problem in their relationship. Romeo
Yeah.
is based on a guy I dated that lives out here that is Black and Persian. And that was important to me because Michigan has such a huge Middle Eastern population that I wanted to have an honest conversation about the way Blacks and Middle Eastern people get along, because we do have a very unique relationship that doesn't match the rest of the country. Yeah. So it's not uncommon to be at a club in Detroit and the Arab and Black guy is next to you. Or the Arab and Persian, it's just not a big deal.
And he's super hot.
We're still friends, but he's and that was him. He was a lawyer before he moved out here. So it's like, and he was like, and he's an overachiever. So it's kind of like I kind of pulled that from him, but he's also fundamentally a very good person. And I wanted Romeo to be like the voice of goodness. So that was kind of his purpose. And then Lee was another ex-boyfriend who
I love it.
I have an ex-boyfriend that manages a rapper, and nobody knows who they are in America, but they're huge overseas. Everybody knows who they are overseas.
Oh my God.
Nobody knows who they are in America. So he walks around Detroit, you would never know. He drives a Jag. He's in Belgium. He's here. He's there, and he's really low key, real easygoing kind of guy, easy to like, because it's like he's just chilling. He smokes. I gotta send him the link to the podcast. He's gonna love it. He's gonna be smoking a blunt, like, oh yeah, I smoked it good. Like he's real chill, real chill.
Yes.
But again, very international traveler. So it's like, again, things that people don't think exist in Detroit.
Well,
that somebody can just have access to.
Yeah. If because of some of these shows and just kind of the different circles that I run into with comedy and music and stuff, when you started describing the studio and this good-looking guy with dreads down to his waist, that's sort of casual but real sweet and real professional. I'm like, oh, I know him. I know him. I was picturing all these people I know. Yep, that's that guy. The
guy with the locks is usually kind of chill. The guy with the long locks.
And you realize
he might still be a gangster, but all the way down to here, he's patient.
Right, and he's like low key running the world, just kind of real casually running the world. He's like, no, I own a couple of buildings. Yeah. You're like, for real?
And I'll call him, and his name's actually Beely, so I flipped it. But I'll call B, and I'll be like, where are you at? He's like, Africa. And I'm like, where you in Africa? Looking at these lions and smoking his blunt, like, seriously, like, and I was like, what? Like, he's a great guy. I wanted to pull him into it.
I want to know him. When we do the second book.
Yes.
When we do the second book, let's get him.
Oh yeah,
let's get him.
He's cool.
Yes.
He's such a cool person. I'm gonna look up, and you guys are gonna be his friend, and I'm gonna be like, with Shelly in Ann Arbor at the weed farm. So I was on the farm today. I got a flight tomorrow. I'm going to Barbados. It's like
yeah. We're already best friends. I'm already stealing that friend from you. Taking him.
He's one of my favorite people. I had to capture.
Oh my God.
I was like, nobody's gonna believe me. I have to describe him very well.
No, and so I have to say, one of the things that I love about, and maybe it was fortuitous, maybe it was like a premonition, but the characters that I loved growing up, like when I think about being in the comedy, music, cannabis, activism type world, those cool people that I grew up wanting to know, where it's like, wait a minute, you run 3 companies, but you also spend a lot of time with a ukulele and a fatty, I'm like, where are these folks, and like, when I walk, it's like, here they are. I know where they are now. I found my tribe, but that's what I love about this book is the characters are this fun tribe, one thing I think you do well is it's like each group of people has their way of behaving towards each other. Like this crew is like love, but a lot of inside jokes. And then this crew is like bad blood from high school. And then this crew is like, those are my stepmom's crazy new rich friends who don't know how to act, and they make fun of them, you know. And it's such a fun picture to paint that, you know, I always want to see my favorite episodic type little books like this be a show. You know, of course I want to see all these characters.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say, is that it
Of
really,
course.
you know, I think some of the best books are those ones. And I just read in one of my other book clubs, I just read a book like this where we were like, okay, who's gonna play this person in the movie, you know,
Yeah.
because it is so vivid. So yeah, I completely agree that.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny that you say that character too, with the guy with the dreads. I was like, oh my God, I totally know him, and I would be gravitated towards him in real life. So
he gets along with everybody. Like, he's everybody's friend. Like, he's just
Yeah.
cool.
yeah.
Yes, yes. Where you're like, you're a good blend of the whole world's good stuff. Like, it's just a good, like,
But
some
he's
people
from
have,
Detroit, so he's still, you know, he's still capable
yeah,
of being gangster if he has to. But if he does, he's like, I
Sure.
don't want to get the chopper. Like, he's
yeah.
mad you're making him shoot you. Like, I don't wanna. I just wanna chill.
You know, I was not in the mood to be gangster tonight, but if you're
Yeah.
gonna bring it out in me, it's there. You're just picking at it. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
he kind of sees that kindred spirit of the observer in Chelsea.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's definitely that one who is sitting back, watching everyone, trying to figure out the right move, kind of play there, you know, and very kind of methodical, and letting other people fuck up or like do well or whatever it might be. And yeah, that a bit removed, and you know, just a keen observer of human behavior.
And he's the first person that doesn't judge her at all. So every other man in the book has some opinion about her. Some opinion. Lee B is the first one that's like, just do you. Be you. I don't care. Just do you, you know. So he's very accepting. I mean, Snap, obviously. But I mean, like, Carter has an opinion. The father has an opinion. They all kind of have an opinion.
Yeah.
Except for, you know, Adrian Gonzalez hates her, you know, and Romeo was like, she wasn't good enough, you know. So, and then Lee B's like, you're good just the way you are. Don't ever change.
Yeah.
I like you with your big belly. And fun fact, if you are pregnant, guys still hit on you. Like, crazy. Okay, so just in case anybody was saying that wouldn't happen. Yes, it would.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's a whole other fetish. That's
sure.
They're like, you're not gonna be pregnant forever.
If you're listening to Reads and Weeds, and you would like a pregnant woman to read to you,
I got you.
I'm sure we can make a connection for you. I'm sure we can make a connection.
COVID got everybody pregnant. I got like pregnant on my side. Like, everybody's pregnant. So yeah, I can get somebody to read the book to you pregnant.
Oh my God. Oh, I know. Well, my two pregnant friends have already given birth. Congratulations. Shout out Jillian Dewan and Hannah Duckman. Congratulations on your 1 and 2 month old respective. What a strange thing. What a world they're growing up in. You're writing the book that they're going to read, you know, in 15 years and go, oh, of course, this is what the world is like. They're just going to know. They're just going to get it. They're going to get it. So I wanted to ask you about your coming to know yourself as a writer and kind of deciding, like, that's it. I'm going to write a novel. Like, was this your first shot at it? Did you self-publish? Did you have a book club that you like? Tell me about that process of this book coming to be, deciding to write it.
I've been a writer since I was like in the 5th grade, so
okay.
I've always experimented. Short stories, poetry. I wrote a novel when I was in the 10th grade. I don't know where it is because back then we didn't have like terabyte drives and stuff. We didn't have flash drives.
Right.
Floppy disk. Somewhere in my mother's basement, that book is on a floppy disk, like the big floppy disk.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm assuming I'll never see it again. But it was something I wrote when I was a teenager. I'm sure I would die if I read it now. And then comedy, you know, comedy is writing. Comedy is 90% writing.
Yeah.
And I have, I wrote screenplays. I ghost wrote a movie, and then I have a couple with my name on it. So it was just, I wanted to do something for me. And when you're in this business, you're thinking about like, what's my pitch? Like if I get in a meeting, what am I going to talk about? And I wanted to talk about something that was important to me, which is the uplifting of Black women. So it was just like, I was like, I wanted to create a character that was unlikely, that nobody would see coming. And I still wanted it to be funny because I do love comedy and I do love to laugh. And honestly, I can't write serious for too long. Even when I try, I'm just like, a joke will just come out. So I wanted it to be a little lighter. I wanted it to be like Monk. You know how Monk is really funny? Monk is really funny. But at the same time, at the end of the day, he's dealing with some serious mental illness issues, but it's presented in a lighthearted way. But then there are dark moments where you feel really bad for him, and then the next moment you're laughing or whatever. Or like Psych. I love that
House.
show.
Remember House?
House is hilarious. Yeah.
House.
Yeah.
It's so dark. It's so dark and uncomfortable.
But
it's like
he's hilarious.
He's hilarious.
And even like Poirot on the BBC, when they do Poirot again, he's very weird. He's not a likable person, but the show is great. His series is great. And Agatha Christie, I don't know if she got some bodies. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody came forward and was like, yeah, she used to kill people. That's how she learned how to write mysteries. Because in order to do it, her mind had to be so dark. Her murders are so meticulous. I say the same thing about James Patterson. I'm like, he got to be killing people. You got to practice killing people to know how to kill people.
Sure.
They do it too well. They just do it too well. I had a friend that he was the interim chief of police in Detroit, Ralph Godby. I think he was chief until the new chief came in. And he and I were on the phone for like 2 hours one day. And I asked him every stupid police procedure question I could ask. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so what happens if you find a body in a closet at a record studio? What do we do? And he was like, oh, well, first the cops gonna do this, then the cops gonna do that. And he was just so open with it. And we talked about and we talked about, I was like, I said, I got a cop who's kind of half-assed. Like he's there, but he don't really give a fuck. He's like, oh, it's a million of them. They come to crime scenes and they're just like, okay, whatever. And they'll just throw the first person that they think is a suspect under the bus, or they'll half collect evidence, because it's screw ups at every job. Why wouldn't it be screw up homicide detectives?
Of course.
So it's like, we got a million of them. Yeah, we're always cleaning up after those guys, and they're trampling on, they're contaminating evidence. So I was like, wow, okay, that's cool. So I can have a detective that isn't good at being a detective. Or whatever. So that kind of makes sense why you would, because the obvious question is, why do you need Chelsea? Why can't the police do it? The police don't give a fuck. You know, they're phoning it in or whatever. And then, I asked him, when does forensics come? Because all I know is what I see on television. And I know television is mostly contrived. So I was like, okay, so like on Law and Order, they asked for DNA, cut to next scene, they got DNA. And he's like, yeah, no, DNA takes like a month. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you don't just get DNA the next day? He's like, nah, you don't get DNA the next day. And I was like, okay, well, file that one away. So we had a really good conversation, and I actually he was one of the people I dedicated the book to, because he helped me out a lot. He helped me out. Because I was worried about the people that would be like, this is fake. Because I always worried about the comments, the comment section.
Yes.
It was real fake. How I'm in law enforcement and it's fake. Like, I didn't want to hear it.
No. Fuck those guys. And you got to be like, anybody that says something is fake, it's like, you think your experience in that is the only experience in the world. Like, that's not the way concert life is, or that's not the way comedy life is. It's like, it might be for somebody that's not you. You're not the only example of, it's ridiculous. But there was I'm trying to think of something about that. It's weird to say I love that crime, but that crime of the music studio and the insurance, that was such a fun twist. And I wondered if you heard about something like that, or was that just fun to make up?
Okay, so before I was a comedian, I was in corporate, and I was a marketing director for a Fortune 400 company. So I was surrounded by white male millionaires. And I saw the way they would move, and I wanted to capture the swag of those men, but then twist it. So I know we have a habit of seeing men that work at Ford that have expense accounts that, you know, they're at the Henry and, you know,
Yes.
they're Ford or they're Chrysler or they're GM and they're high up. They're the reason that Oakland County is the fourth wealthiest county in the country because it's that much money there,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
But we never think for a minute they might not be all that they're presenting themselves to be. We see a black man get out of a Mercedes, we think he's a drug dealer. We see a white man get out of a Mercedes, we think he's CEO, president, he's something. Right. It could be the other way around. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And that's what I wanted to show. I wanted to create a character for Miss Madeline's kids because at the end of the day, if she hit the lottery, her kids are going crazy. They're just idiots. And I wanted to make sure we had a character that just represented the foolishness that will come out of going from broke to rich overnight. Yeah. And so I came up with the character of Rashad. And Rashad is a lot of guys I know in Detroit. They've got some money now. They got some money now. And they're just doing stupid stuff with it. Just like another $15,000 chain. Another diamond bracelet, another.
Right.
And they really have no purpose other than to just show everybody they have money. And they're like peacocks. And to some people, they're a pigeon. These are the guys that girls see coming and they're like, he's gonna pay my rent this month. He doesn't even know. You know what I mean? They're preyed upon. They're preyed upon. And I wanted to create a character like that. And I wanted him to be hilarious. I just wanted him to be hilarious. Unlike her other kids, which were more serious. Rashad is the one that when the reader sees him coming, I want them to, like in future books, I want them to go, oh, here comes Rashad. Something crazy is about to happen.
Right. So, he done bought a hovercraft.
he bought a helicopter, you know, so it's just like, you know, just because he just doesn't know what to do. And his relationship with Carter and Chelsea being contingent upon the love he has for their father, which kind of irritates them a little bit. Because in book 2, he calls their dad daddy. And they're just like, stop calling my daddy daddy. It's not your daddy. It's my daddy.
Right.
Because he's a grown man. He's a grown-ass man. This is not a boy. Man. A grown-ass man.
But he's got a great, he's a great character. I think all these characters would be really fun to play, like, because they're so fun and complicated, you know. I have to know if Chelsea's head tilt scrunch face is your head tilt scrunch face. No. It is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
No, it's probably my sister, my grandmother. My grandmother had this thing where my sister tilts her head. It should just be like, that's her resting face. And we found an old picture of my grandmother from like 1829 or some shit. It was so old. It was brown. It wasn't black and white. It was like brown. It was old. And she's probably, it was like sepia, And she's with my grandfather on the day they got married, and she's like 22 or something, and her head is just kind of cocked. And we were like, that's where Nikki gets it from. So the head tilt maybe it's just like a nod to my grandma, but that's not when she's being smart. My sister just like, if you look over her face will just be like that. You're like, straighten your neck out, like you look crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think about that way, you know, your friend. It's a great way, like the fact that Snap knows the head tilt scrunch face. It's a great way to write how well two friends know each other.
Yeah.
You know, if you know someone really well, you're like, I know that face. That means you're up to something. You know, you can see it, and you just need the little, like, and I picture her being like suspicious, but like also snarky, kind of like, I know what's going on, you know, but if you don't know her, you can't see it, but Snap knows. Yeah. He's like, you know who did it. He can see it.
Yeah, he knew she knew. Yeah. That's when her mind is working. That's her little calculation.
Yeah.
That's when she's lost in thought and she doesn't realize she's looking stupid. Like, have you ever been lost in thought? And then you just like, somebody's like, close your mouth.
Most of the time. 90% of the time, I'm like,
right.
I think that's my resting, like,
that's right. My thinking face, like, huh?
Your resting brilliant face.
Your resting brilliance face. That's a good word for it.
That's it. I was gonna say, like, stoned in bewilderment. Oh, speaking of resting bewilderment face, I'm going to take a break here from the book and go into a little cannabis news for a second, but this is actually Psychedelic Society news. So the Detroit Psychedelic Society conference was this weekend.
Oh, I saw your.
And oh my God. So I think Heather, okay, so all these characters that I was reading about, and then I go to the Detroit Psychedelic Conference, they were mostly there. So just saying, there was like the dreadlock guy and the dandy. It was like, oh, they're all here. I know all these people. And it was such a cool group of people. And we've all been to conferences. You were in marketing. You've been like, we've been to conferences where it's like, how to triple your sales in 6 months. I mean, like shit like that, right? The breakout sessions. Yes. The breakout sessions at this conference were called things like intergalactic galactic cellular unity on psilocybin, and how to connect with your ancient wisdom. You know, like that was the name of one breakout session. Another one would be like reigniting your inner elf with sacred plants. You know, oh my God, it was mind-blowing. So
reigniting your inner elf.
I think that was legitimately the name of one of the, I bought an ankh that I now have. I'll show it to you. Hold tight.
The ankh is everything. You're not officially woke until you got an ankh.
Well, I think we can all agree that the shit is hitting the fan on our planet.
The Mayans.
That we all know, because we're gathering our tribes, that you need a good intergalactic spiritual battle home team that you need to gather up, you know.
The war for Middle Earth.
They're gonna need
that was really meticulously, that was handmade too, wasn't it?
Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at it. No, the stones that are picked out, like the way the wires are, and one of the speakers,
somebody made that with their hand.
Oh yeah, they were making them there. It was so beautiful, so beautiful. Like when you hold it, you know. So they were explaining this. She told this story, and I've never heard anybody tell a story like this, where this woman told the story of, her name was Acacia. She looks 15. I think maybe she's 30. I don't know, but she seems like 1,700 years old. You know, one of those people where you're like,
she's a tree, basically.
You've obviously time traveled for a millennia. You just met me. I'm in like your 7th lifetime, and you're very aware that I'm from. You're like, you know, people would say things like, "Oh, I remember you." You know, you're in this big crowd of people, and you're thinking, "Oh, I wonder if we've met before." And they go like, "Oh, no. I mean, like 10 years ago when I did 15 grams of psilocybin, and we met in the desert of, you know, like." They remember you from 10 lifetimes ago. Oh my God. Anyway, she's telling this story about doing battle and bringing in like your inter-spiritual technology sort of to focus your energy, and this was why I bought the ankh. Anyway, there's that. The other thing I wanted to get your opinion on.
The ankh is amazing.
The ankh is amazing, and you gotta hold it. It's beautiful. So
my friend Wanda has some ankh earrings.
Oh yeah. Well, they make necklaces.
When you wear some ankh earrings, nobody says anything stupid to you. You understand what I'm saying? Like, nobody bothers you. Nobody says anything dumb.
This would be a little heavy.
They're coming down to here. Nobody's bothering you.
It's a nose ring.
Like, hey, baby.
It's an eyebrow.
You crazy.
It's an eyebrow ring.
Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Nobody's in the store like, I don't want to wear a mask. Not to you. They're not bothering you. You're not getting any of the bullshit. You know? It's like a present. It's like the calling card that says, "Don't start no shit, won't be no shit." You know what I mean?
When you see someone clearing their space with an ankh, you just sort of, you're not getting harassed. Nope. You're sporting an ankh. Nobody's gonna fuck with you. It's like the Big Sean.
I've heard her so many times. I've seen it. I've seen her walk, and people just move out of her way, and I'm like, it's the earrings. It's the earrings. Mm-hmm. She's my woke friend.
Yeah.
She's in book 2.
Oh, cool. Okay, so speaking of things that change the world, I was looking at cannabis news before I got on here, and they're passing packages. You know, Republicans and Democrats are trying to write packages that are financially to help the country overcome. And this week, the Democrats tried to put through something that the Republicans criticized because it contained too much cannabis allowances, basically. So it was basically, I think what the Democrats were trying to do, and I can put these articles in the notes or something. I think what they were trying to pass was like, because we're trying to do criminal justice reform and economic reform right now, those are the big topics. Cannabis is a big part of both of those. Like getting legislation through that lifts records and expunges records and also gives people jobs and can like put a tax base into communities where there's not a tax base. It makes sense. In my mind, it makes perfect sense that cannabis reform would have everything to do with criminal justice reform and financial reform, right? Like it just makes sense. But this article made me realize that there's whole swaths of the country that would never consider that making a drug decriminalized and legal would be fixing criminal justice and infusing communities with financial aid.
So much money.
It's so intertwined. So I have to read you this quote.
I feel like it probably was the same way during Prohibition.
I was
It
gonna
probably was exactly the same way. Prohibition fed communities.
same thing.
Prohibition kept people eating.
Yeah.
And then the companies took over when they legalized it, and all the people that were making money on the streets got cut out. Corporations took over and ran with it.
Yeah.
But there was also I think I did the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky a couple of years ago, and it's always something that I've wanted to look into more. And that one of the distilleries I went into made the connection between the Great Depression and Prohibition. That actually, because they made alcohol illegal, all of that money that was being produced by that industry, obviously, as we all know, there was plenty that continued on illegally, but that Prohibition actually cost a shit ton of money. That it was like financially awful, you know. And
it still is.
Yeah, well, right. It still is.
And
you're saying exactly what, if people would look at history of what Prohibition does.
Yeah. So because this is something we talk about a lot, this was my favorite quote. So this is from MJ Biz Daily, and it takes it state by state. Wait a minute, hold on a second. It's from marijuanamoment.net. So the title of the article is White House Slams Cannabis Banking in Dim COVID Bill. That's the name of it. It's from Marijuana Moment. And my favorite quote from this, it kind of goes through and gives you quotes from, Senator John Corwin of Texas, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, it's sort of quoting all these people. And this one is very interesting. Alabama Democratic congressional candidate Kiani Gardner tweeted, "I don't have strong feeling about marijuana, but at least once a day I get furious thinking about U.S. pot laws that make mostly white millionaires in one state and tear apart mostly black families in another. Turns out I have really strong feelings about marijuana." So it was a perfect quote, because if you're not thinking about that, if you're not thinking about the fact that there's multi-state operators making certain people rich who just got into the game in the last couple of years, like 2 years ago, they were making t-shirts or auto parts or what the fuck ever. And they're just like, wait, there's money over here in this thing that I used to vote against constantly. I'm going to get into that. And if that doesn't bug you a little bit, the fact that there's people making money off of something and people sitting in jail for it, it's so infuriating. I mean, there's plenty of ways to do things about that. You can, there's the Last Prisoner Project. We can put a link to that in the show. Last Prisoner Project is worth looking into. Free Michael Thompson. there's a lot of ways to look up ways that you can help with that, because, and if you're, this is a voting year, if you don't understand what your candidates think about expungement and things like that, it's worth looking into because it affects everything else.
I mean, I really think there's a big mirror that you could hold up, especially coming from Detroit, because we're an international border town, which means we've always had contraband since the beginning of whatever contraband was. We've always had it, because Canada's always been liberal and the United States has always been strict. So, in the 20s, the Jewish mob, the Purple Gang, was taking kegs of bootleg liquor, and they had a pulley system, and they would pull it underneath the water on the Detroit River, and that's how they would transport it. So they were transporting the whole Midwest, and they were feeding the community because they were feeding the Black community and their community, and everybody was eating and prospering and thriving until they legalized it. Everything was thriving until they legalized it. And you can see, you hear stories, and this Bugsy Siegel and this one, they were selling bootleg liquor, and some of them died in jail, and some of them got out of jail, and some of them died. You know what I mean? So it just got murdered because the game is cutthroat. So I think it's a huge comparison there of basically the same thing. People, bootleg liquor was against the law, but rich people, celebrities, politicians, they had gin at their parties. So it's like, okay, you guys are buying bootleg liquor and imprisoning people. And the people that were against it, the teetotalers, they were very devout. There was no gray area for them. They were very devout. So we don't see the devotion to anti-cannabis that we had maybe 40 years ago. You don't see that anymore. Everybody's kind of like, who cares? Who cares? Yeah. Smoke. Who cares? So I'm not a smoker, but I don't care who smokes.
Right. That's the thing.
Like me. So I feel like the generation they kind of, my mother's a perfect example. She used to say, when I was a teenager, my mother used to say weed was a gateway drug. Like, she was one of those, weed today, crack tomorrow. And I'd be like, how? How?
No.
Like, even at 14, I was like, I don't think that's right, Mom.
You're like, Mom, I don't understand yet how marketing works, but I think you're being misled.
Right, I was listening to Snoop Dogg real heavy back in those days. Weed and hip hop kind of came together, and it was kind of like, no, weed is just weed. It's not all of that. And my mother, about a month ago, she has a really bad knee pain, and she was taking cannabis oil, and I was like, what? All the grief you gave us on the weed, you got some weed oil on your knee.
You know what though? It's whenever I think about, we got to be done with education, like, I'm like, everybody knows. Surely everybody knows, right? We have to keep educating. And then you read, like, if you read that report from marijuanamoment.net, it's remembering that there's pockets all around the country where people are just, they're just like, they don't want to think about it as a plant that God created. They don't. What?
The devil's lettuce.
It is.
The devil's lettuce.
It's the devil's lettuce. And it goes good with
those to me are the same communities that don't want integration. That's like the footloose towns. The kids can't dance. Like, that to me is that's different. Those are problematic for a lot of reasons. When I used to be on the road, I used to call them footloose towns.
Footloose towns.
I'd be like, hey, we're in footloose town. Like, this is I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta hurry up and drive through. They're not gonna let me stay. They're not gonna let me cuss on stage. Just footloose.
I am not. First of all, I could not get through one sentence without cussing, so like I might. Also, I'm way less funnier if I'm not,
Sure, it's good sometimes.
Right.
Punch it up.
Punch it up. When you're a road comic, you learn the country because we tend to think we know what it is. And it's like, no, you need to go up to Michigan, go up a little higher, go past Traverse City. It's a little different.
Yeah.
And so to me, those communities are very closed-minded. They're not exposed. And more importantly, these will be the same communities where the mayor and the city council will be like, no drugs. And then the kids will be having a whole sex ring that they'll be like, we don't know what's all day.
Sure.
Putting vodka tampons in their asshole.
Right. It's a whole foolishness to that kind of mentality. Like, you guys have no idea what your kids are doing. 14 kids dead from overdose.
I'm shocked.
Or they have a HIV outbreak, like fucking.
Yeah.
You know what?
Or
Like,
remember
if
the gonorrhea in the throat thing? Remember when all the kids were getting gonorrhea in the throat?
no,
Because
I don't.
it was like the whole thing with like the teenagers in America because they didn't think they were having sex because they were just getting head,
Right.
but they were getting
Oh.
gonorrhea in their throats.
Oh, guys, I think I say it once a day, but I just need to confirm that Americans might be the dumbest motherfuckers
Right.
in the world.
And I guarantee
Hey,
you
world!
that's
Sorry!
the girl whose
We're
father was like,
trying!
oh, my daughter won't be having sex. Oh, my daughter won't play with the black kids. Like, that's that guy. That's the guy whose daughter had gonorrhea throat gonorrhea. It's always like
Heather,
that. Like, it's always
Heather,
that.
we're that country that changes the first two letters of a perfectly spelled business to be misspelled
Right.
just to piss me off. Don't you change both those C's to K's. I see you. Please
What's
don't
the
make
name
it country.
What was the name of the place again, Shelley? What was the name?
Country, maybe country chicken, but both with K's. Fuck you. Claire, I don't know if I've expressed this to you before, but when a
I
business
speak Arabic, so that's a chicken.
Chicken.
A whole other letter.
No, Claire, here's what you need to know about me. If you ever want to really piss me off, text me a business who has changed their name so it's now misspelled to be like clever or folksy. I will fly off in a rage.
Folksy. Yeah.
So I have to tell you, Heather, what you were talking about with a fun book that we did on the show, which maybe you've read because it seems like something. Have you read The World According to Fannie Davis?
No, I'm looking it up.
Oh my God, The World According to Fannie Davis is about my mother's life in Detroit numbers. So that one was about how the black market running the numbers in Detroit was how a lot of Detroit built wealth. And she grew up being a well-off little girl that lived in a nice house because her mother ran the numbers. And and her telling of the story of her mother running the numbers, and then kind of the way, and then it all of a sudden it was legalized, and all of a sudden you could go into any gas station and do it, and the same people that were trying to put them in jail and shut them down are now making money, and it's the same story.
The lottery definitely showed the numbers. Yeah, the lottery definitely. Yeah. And here's what's really funny. I just pulled it up. I was watching, you know how you watch those crime shows? Like, I love, like, City Confidential and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was a 1950s documentary about this woman that killed this man. It was the whole story of the murder, but it was all set against this town in Florida that the whole town was basically running the number, but they called it something different down there because it had kind of a Creole kind of a thing to it, and it was whites and blacks coming together to run these numbers. So it was not a racial divide at all. Everybody was a part of it. The mayor, the town doctor, everybody was a part of this. The money that was coming from the numbers, and it was never presented. I'm watching the documentary 60, 70 years later. It's never presented as if that was the problem. It was like, well, the murder had nothing, the murder was just the murder. But it was like, yeah, everybody was pretty much, and just the casual attitude they all had about, he was the doctor. He was our town doctor. We loved him. And, you could go and play your number. You go to the doctor and play your number. Yeah. And it was like, when I think about how they presented, how Hollywood presents the numbers, it's always dark, seedy, something wrong. It was like, no, guys, everybody played. It wouldn't have been lucrative if only a few people were doing it. It was like a lottery. And then you hear, Michigan State, that $70 million. And of course it's $70 million. So that was the money that was in the community.
Right. And it's a fun connection. Like, I think the reason why you would love the Fannie Mae Davis thing is, well, it was a great book. We all love this book. Her characters, and it's kind of like an homage to her mother. Like, you love her mother, you love that kind of woman. We all loved the characters, and it's a autobiography kind of. Yeah. But also one of the main characters in your book, and she sets up all these different relationships, is Maddie, who we learn so much about her life, and then she ends up winning the lottery. And it's so interesting because she's like a great history of Detroit. She's like a little girl who goes to work for a family and is liked by the family, but then they move away, and then and then she has money all of a sudden, and how she comes up and how she's kind of like that history that is linked to the Fannie Mae Davis history. I thought that was such a cool, like, how both those books that I've read acknowledge like Detroit as is, but also like how shit changes, abruptly, or so one of the things that I love about this book is the way people, there's many different perspectives on how people see their job and their money. And it's so interesting. There's like the girl at the brunch who she wants to be, she wants to be bougie, and we all know that girl who, like, the baby shower outfit is super important, and like her Instagram account is super important. Her dog and her fingernails and like what name she drops is super important. And then there's other people who just don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. They can be rich, they can be whatever, and they don't give a shit. They're just like, well, whatever. It's money. You can have some if you want it. Like, I don't care. Here it is. Like, it's.
I think that's really important that you said that, because I wasn't really thinking. I just wanted to capture that, the bougie girl. I wanted to make sure she could real. She's real. But when I was growing up in the city, rappers would rap about liquor, and everything was expensive. Cristal, champagne, and these. And then when I started working for millionaires and we would have outings, they would be drinking Jack Daniels and Jim Beam, and it was like, oh, you guys don't drink Cristal? And they're like, no, what the fuck? Like,
they're like, no, we drink Coors Light.
They're drinking anything you can get out the liquor store.
Right.
Or they're drinking bottom shelf. They're drinking.
They're like, get as much as you can and a 40. And some Doritos.
And
I know.
I had to learn, like, I had to see that in real time, or else I wouldn't have believed it. Because I was like, no, rich people, they do this. It's like, no, rich people, they act a lot like you.
You know what I realized?
They just pay attorneys to fix their mistakes. So like, whereas the black guy, he gets pulled over, something goes crazy, it's going wrong one way. The white guy gets pulled over and he ends up with $15,000 DUI. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
It's just not discussed.
Too
it's
real.
Like, it's just not discussed. It's like, they all have DUI. Right?
It's too real. It's too real. And to bring that up in mixed company sometimes, it's like, well, why did he get arrested? And you're like, because he's not white. What do you mean? Surely we all know this by now. How could you even ask that? I don't understand why you have to ask that anymore. But what's interesting is what I learned when I moved to Ann Arbor, which is sort of similar, I guess, is I moved to Michigan from the South, and in Ann Arbor, it's like I knew there was a lot of money. But I remember I was working at some restaurant, and some guy comes in like Birkenstocks and corduroys and like a flannel, and he's sort of got like mustard on it, and he's shaggy, and you find out later that he developed an app, like some sort of he invented like a heart valve or something. You're like, what the fuck? This like internationally known, he's written papers that have changed the medical industry, but he's just sort of cash, barbecue sandwich eating dad. It's just like zero flash. He always has like dog hair on his coat. It was like that Midwestern rich that like you're like, oh, you would never know.
True.
It's not a Miami rich.
Or the guy that works at the plant and he makes $30 an hour, and he's never not worked 60 hours a week. And when you see him, you don't know that he made $200,000 making cars on the line. You're just like, and then you come to his house, it's like a boat in the back. You're like, hey, you got a boat? Oh yeah, I make, I'm what they call special trades at Chrysler. I'm special trades. I was like, oh, okay, you make a lot of money, but you wouldn't even know.
No. I love those kind of people. I
do think they're unique to the Midwest too. I think that's really a Midwest thing.
It's an interesting thing. Or it's like it's a farm thing. Like even because I used to sell door to door, and you said you got to go out there and like do comedy. So my intro into like the world that you see in everybody's house was selling things door to door. And when I lived in LA, I was knocking on doors, right? So suddenly you get this glimpse of like, oh, this family goes and visits their dad at jail on you know, I can't come, like I have it written in my notebook, come back a different day. Because they have like jail visitation, just like, oh, okay, that's how they're growing up. And then another family, you know, another family is like, you realize that they fled their homeland, and he used to be a sheik or something, but they fled their war. But you walk into their house and it looks like a different, you walk into their pink stucco track house and you walk in and there's like gilded furniture and heavy curtains and like incense burning. You know, I love that shit. You're like, oh, okay. So you guys brought
things are not what they seem. Things are not what the media has done a really good job of brainwashing us. The media has us thinking America looks one way. It's like America looks nothing like what you
no. I love the description of the Florida house. The description of decorating the Florida house. I'm like, I have so been in that house where you're like,
new money.
People,
new money.
New money.
New money.
New money. You're like, really? You got like a dragon fountain in the living room?
My mother had a friend and her brothers wrote for Motown. And they had a big mansion on 7 Mile in Livernois in Sherwood Forest. And we would go over there, and it was the most decadent house that I've ever seen in my life on 7 Mile in the middle of Detroit. But it was like a maid's quarters. It was a penthouse rooftop, and it was high ceilings. But the brothers had moved to LA and they were doing something different. They gave their sister their house. So she didn't work for Motown. So it would always be real cold because they couldn't have the heat on. Like, it was just weird. No groceries. Like, it was just like
you're eating Captain Crunch
out
of a gold bowl.
I remember they had gold Venetian blinds. It was just like, and I remember my mother being like, Venetian blinds are gold. You know what I mean? Everybody just thinking that was so sweet. It was like, but the house is cold because they can't afford to heat the mansion on their salary.
She's got pizza rolls in the microwave.
Right. But you would just come off because you go down Livernois and it would look, you know, UAD district where the houses get a little bigger and nicer, but not like this. And then you cut down a side street and it was just mansions. Yeah. And then you walk inside and they were very decadent, but they were still new money. So they were not home and garden mansions. They were, I like that. I'm gonna put that up. Oh, I'm gonna get that, girl. It was, put that chandelier right there. It was that kind of
thing. You know what? I heard they heard Beyonce had one, so they just bought one.
It was definitely that kind of like, I heard Diana Ross. This is like when everybody wants to be Diana Ross and Smokey, right? Yeah. I heard Diana Ross had it. Whatever. My mother called her like Motown generation. So but I remember everybody making over their house. And people asking them, hey, can I have my party here? Because their house was old school. It was like old fabulous, but it was also very new money. And when I think about it, it was like that house was so weird. That house had a maid's quarters. I bet there was
somewhere in the house, I bet there was like a pink and gold diamond pattern. Do you know what I mean? Like mirrors and then velvet, maybe on a staircase or something, like
and
up
then,
a wall.
I don't know about how you guys grew up. I can only know my culture. When somebody had some nice shit, you couldn't sit on it or touch it. So there were always these museum rooms. So it was just like that. Oh, your living room is shop, girl, but can't nobody go in there. So
covered in clear plastic.
That's the original couch. That couch was $500, but can't nobody sit on it. And I remember her living room was like off limits, and it was like a den with a pool table, and everybody just thought this was so like, oh my God. Right. But thinking back, like that house was ridiculous.
Okay. You were like, I don't know how you grew up, so I'm going to give you 3 things to put in your mind. Are you ready? Okay. Thing 1 is wagon wheel table. Thing 1. So picture a barrel cut in half with a wagon wheel over it with a plexiglass top. That's visual 1. Visual 2 is like a half barrel bar / encyclopedia set holder. So picture a big barrel Big Barrel cut in half.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some Funkin' Wagnalls encyclopedia, not a complete set, because you got them with grocery store coupons, but also a couple of bottles of liquor.
Right.
In the same, in there, mixed in, so that's a thing too. And then like a pale green refrigerator.
Oh yeah, the green oven.
I think that's all you need to know.
Yeah, I do remember the refrigerators. I do remember the ugly green and the yellow. It was like green or yellow.
Yeah,
that was
that's
a whole
all you
thing
need to
coming out
know.
of the 70s. Yeah.
Except also one more picture. The kitchen wallpaper was like printed with like stacks of jars, right?
Oh.
So can you picture like our wallpaper looked like stacked jars of vegetables.
That wagon wheel dining room table, I'm done.
It was hot. It was hot. Uh-huh. So there you go. There's that picture.
That reminds me of 70s television.
Oh.
That reminds me like Christy McNichol. Like,
I sat and put my bowl of Fruit Loops on that wagon wheel table and watched after school specials where I was concerned about Christy McNichol's safety.
What's going to happen to Christy McNichol?
Somebody watch out for that girl. She's got a page boy haircut and she is crying her ass off. Get her in the car. Oh my
Claire,
God.
I feel like we lost you, Claire. Are we too old? We lost you, Claire.
She's with us. She's with us. She's with us.
We grew up in a really weird time. I read something that said our generation of Xennial or something, Generation X is we're weird because we were born analog but became digital. So like we remember shit like Christy McNichol, and we also have like every app on the iPhone 11.
Yeah,
like we're both.
my older
we're like a weird age.
Yeah, like some of it is fitting, and then I'm like, I know that name, but I don't really know what.
Well, if you had, because you have to understand, we didn't have cable in Detroit until like '89. So like regular TV was just whatever they gave us. So that's what we were into. And Christy McNichol was like, she was like the after school special. She was on everything. She was just on every TV guide cover. She was adorable. Little Bob. She was real cute, little freckles. And then she grew up and had
oh my God, she was America's sweetheart.
Yeah, she was. She was America's sweetheart. She was.
She was your tennis star. She was the child next door that you were concerned was being abused.
Yeah.
She was selling Girl Scout cookies. She was on a milk carton. This chick was everywhere.
Her best friend committed suicide and she had COVID. She was everything.
She went through it all.
She was on the cover of every teen magazine.
All
and then we got cable and nobody cared anymore. We got cable and was like, oh, we got
now we're like,
we don't need that.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. You were talking about houses where you want to have a party. If we could get access to that house that you were talking about, I would really like to have a party there. And also Claire, the house that she grew up in, is also a cool place to have a party. Her parents invited me over for, what was it? It was
they do a New
Thanksgiving, New Year's Day. I went to a New Year's Day brunch at Claire's house. And it was kind of posh. It was like, there was nice cocktails. Somebody was passing a plate with like delicious.
It was probably my cousin, my aunt or whatever. But yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know how you grew up, but Claire's relatives were sitting around going, Claire, tell us, what are your plans for the next couple of years? Have you decided? And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Do your relatives care about your life? Is that what I'm hearing here?
You know,
so tell us your life plan over brunch on New Year's Day. That sounds like so much fun. I wish my family was like that.
I might have pulled Claire outside to smoke a joint and like, so is this something you guys just do?
Are you guys like this for real?
Like they care about your decisions and are you for real? It was amazing. I was so enchanted. My grandmother would have did
something similar. My grandmother used to cook the next day after being drunk. Like you could always go eat the next day.
Yeah.
And she could cook really good and you'd be up there, but it wouldn't be like, what are you doing? It would be like, I know you ain't doing that dumb shit. Like it would have been more crisp. Like, so you still dating that ugly guy? Like it would have been that. It would be like, oh God. But yeah, you can definitely go eat.
Yeah.
Some people are just good at hosting. You know, some people are just, and they kind of build homes around the life they like.
My mom used to have people over, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. She's good
Some
at it.
people like it.
Shout out Claire's mom.
Yeah.
Shout out to Claire's mom
I always
and her
when
hors
I ended
d'oeuvres
up
on New Year's Day.
Well, plus my brother is in the food industry, so there's always lots of delicious food. And I worked as a bartender, so I usually influence the cocktail situation.
You
Right.
guys are
Yeah.
profesh.
But yeah. No, what you were talking about that house, it reminds me. My best friend from Michigan was from Detroit. She grew up in Indian Village.
Mm-hmm.
So same kind of houses.
Yeah.
I remember one, I don't know, I think it's in the spring, but there's a house tour of Indian Village's houses tour. And one year I got roped into being a docent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I basically had to
Quick definition, please, for the word docent, real quick, will you? For the lay people.
Fucking stand there and like not say shit, but I felt obligated to be like, welcome to the bedroom. This is the bedroom. But it was really fucking creepy because it was the like a dressing room kind of.
Yeah.
So there was like not a chaise. What do they call those? Like a fainting couch, kind of.
Oh, thank God! I always faint while dressing. Trying to zip stuff up.
Okay.
We need to bring fainting back. We need to bring fainting back. We lost control of the game. We stopped fainting, women. Just so you know, we had men right in the palm of our hands, and we would be like, "What'd you say?" We started going, "Huh? What? Well, explain to me," and then we lost. We just passed out. We had control. We had them right here, right here.
Well, I almost did pass out because it was full of dolls.
Oh God!
Everywhere. Also, I felt
Thanks for the nightmares, Claire.
I felt like I had to explain the dolls, like what are dolls, you know?
Hey, welcome to the house.
Dolls. I don't know, you know, like people after people coming in, and you're just sort of standing there, like.
I don't know why they kept it down. They come alive and they kill people.
I'm sure I made some other shit up too.
They're like, oh hey, welcome to the house. This is the room where they keep the dolls that will haunt your nightmares.
You won't be sleeping tonight. Step inside.
Like, most people would come in and be like, "This is terrifying," and I'd be like, "You don't have to stand here for 3 hours."
They're worth They're worth a minute.
I know. They're talking. Don't leave me.
Oh my God, that's so
my God.
Indian Village is a weird little. It's a weird little part of town. It's like Indian Village is always like in Detroit, but its own little.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it was
But
funny.
it was East Side. You know,
You're
East Side
like,
people are more different.
welcome to the.
East Side.
Things are not what they seem. Her parents were teachers in the.
There they were.
Yeah, they were public school teachers, and I guess they would have bought the house in the 80s, maybe.
Yeah.
After
Of course they did.
Really
Of course they did.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna venture to guess that some of those dolls had cocaine on them. Like someone sniffed cocaine off a doll.
I feel like every
I
doll
can't
had
prove
a story.
it. I can't
I feel
prove
like
it.
every doll she lifted up would have a story. Like, this was the doll I bought. Like, I feel like she had a story for every doll.
Sure.
They were meaningful.
Oh,
to her.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like,
Weird,
sure.
but meaningful.
I think it goes without saying that not only did those dolls have cocaine on them, but there was a big fishbowl where you could leave your keys if you were into swinging.
Definitely. I think this house had a roller rink in the basement, actually.
Of
That's
course
dope.
it did.
It was one of
That's
those
dope.
sometimes
So,
it's weird.
do you have their number? Actually, I want
That sounds like a great house.
both their numbers. Actually,
I think the family still has that house in Sherwood Forest. I could probably find out because I always wondered about that. I was like, who has that house now? Did they redecorate? Does it look the
Hey,
same?
if you have what you consider to be an old school freaky disco type house, I want like some kind of fountain, inside fountain. I want like something gaudy, something that is almost embarrassing to be around.
My grandmother had a disco ball My grandmother had her own disco.
Things like that. I want a fondue set and a hookah lounge, and I want plastic on all the furniture. I want a life-size painting of like your grandmother and her cat where she's like scantily clad.
Oh, I actually have one of those. When my grandmother died, we found all these pictures of her naked in the tub. I was just like,
that's
awesome.
awesome.
Who's developing the pictures, grandma? She's trying to be real sexy, like throwing her leg over. She's just butt naked in the tub.
Oh, many stories. Okay, we might have gotten on off track, but I think we're still in the world. We're still in the world of the story.
This is the world building. This is
the world of the story. This is the beginning of the fan fiction for this series.
Like, okay, tell me more about the grandma hat. I mean, like.
My grandmother was a piece of work. My grandmother's a whole book series in herself.
Real there.
Yeah, my grandmother and my aunts, they're like a whole. I could do a whole series just on them.
Yeah,
like they were just.
They're a spin-off series.
When you grow up and you think something's normal, and then you start venturing into the world and you realize things are not normal at home. Like as a kid, I thought everybody's grandma was like I thought this was normal. I was like, your grandmother doesn't throw parties and the whole neighborhood comes over and then you wake up and you're like 7 and you're stepping over drunks. Like you guys don't do that. Like, you don't do that.
Yeah.
And she was a Depression era and she just got it how she lived and she was very unapologetic and she just was like that till she died. And so my mother, you know how the kid always becomes the opposite. Like my mom is real like, rigid, straight or whatever. But we always got a kick out of my grandmother. We thought she was hilarious. And when she died, we're cleaning stuff out, and we're just like, are these bathtub? Are these like grandma naked? Like, and it was the 50s. She was stacked.
Sure.
It was fine, and she was naked in the bathtub. But I'm like, you took these to the drugstore. Like, you didn't. This is not digital. This is somebody had to develop and get this to you.
Oh my God.
And they were black and white, and I don't know where they are now because I know my mother didn't want them, but they're on a black grandma in the bathtub fetish site. Yes, 50s boudoir grandma. Yeah. And so it was like that. She had paintings of herself and she was and her like I said, her whole upstairs was a bar, was a nightclub. And it was like they would go up there, they would dance, they would smoke, it was nude pictures hanging, it was a disco ball. Yeah. And she would play her records because that's when it was records, and she would play the same song over and over and over again. So it was Got to Give It Up by Marvin Gaye.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Over and over and over again. And when you're a kid, you're like, yeah, this is just what it is.
Sure.
Because here's the thing, she loved us to death. Like she loved us to death. It was like, this is love. Okay, so she's great. This is just what she does. And then I remember she came to Detroit because she lived in Indianapolis. She came to Detroit because I didn't think of her as my mom's mom. I didn't think of her as a mom. I thought of her as grandma. So my mom was like, this is my mom. And my mom and my aunt would be so embarrassed. They would just be like, Mama, no, right? We would be like, leave her alone. Like, and she came to Detroit and she stayed downtown. And because she used to work for the Catholic lottery, which was the Catholic numbers. So she always had a couple extra dollars because she knew how to make sure she would hit. You know what I mean? So she always had a couple extra dollars. So she would come to Detroit with my aunt, her sister, and they would party in Detroit. And it would be like boat parties and just all these decadent pictures of them like in the 70s. And grandma came to Detroit and she had on some liquid leggings with some high heel shoes. And they asked my mother to take them to Farmer Jack. And my mother took them to Farmer Jack and they had on these like red and black patent leather leggings with these high heel shoes. And my mother was just like, oh my God. You know, it's like, she's great. What are you talking about? They're like in Farmer Jack pushing the basket. Get some girl, get some milk. You know what I mean? But they were just dressed like they were about to just shake it down to the club to 3 o'clock in the morning. And my mother was and I just remember the image of my mother being horrified and me and my sister just laughing so hard. Like, that's our grandma. She's dressed. And here's the thing, she had the body for it. Like her mom, they pulled it off, you know?
Oh, of course.
So now that I'm older, I'm just like, I wish I could put on a pair of liquid leggings like Graham did and just go.
I think you just got to do it one day. One day you just got to decide you're liquid leggings girl.
It's just with the Olivia Newton-John green shoes. Remember how Olivia Newton-John had the little pants on at the end and she had the little mules?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. She's got chills and they're multiplying.
Oh yeah, she was definitely yeah. That was a look. She was going for her little early '80s Olivia Newton-John.
Oh
Or
yeah.
whatever.
Wow.
So one day
God.
later, I'll write. I have to wait for everybody to be dead to write about my grandma because my mom.
Oh my God. So, okay. So just looking at the time here, I want to go do a little round of last comments on the book or cannabis or life or anything. So Claire, take it away.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I just am like, I gotta read another one. Like, I gotta read them all. And well, that was kind of my other question is, are there more than two? Like, you know, what's
Yeah. Well, okay, here's the thing. Chelsea is about to have a baby. So I don't know if you guys watched The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah.
But apparently, I love that show.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one of the criticisms, I read this article, one of the criticisms that the creator gets in the form of letters and blogs is that people are mad that Midge is never with her kids. And this is like a real thing. So I was reading a book on how to develop a series, and one of the things that they were talking about was you have to consider some of the realism of what your character's doing. And so, like, if she just had a baby and she's out in the street fighting crime, there are going to be people that are like, go home and take care of your baby. What is wrong with you?
Yes.
So I'm going to need her to kind of pull back a little bit for book 3. She's going to step back a little bit. And then some of the other Team Chelsea people are going to step forward so that she can be a mom.
Right.
Which is, you know, because I don't want to hear the bullshit. I don't want to hear the think piece like, and you got this black woman out here not taking care of her kids. I don't want to hear it.
Oh my God. You know somebody's gonna.
I actually started book 3. Book 2 is done, and I actually started book 3. And so yeah, we're gonna just slightly just turn Chelsea down a little bit for a while, and then bring her back. So that book 2 is really introducing the whole universe so that I can have some flexibility with who I put in the forefront. So book 2 is Chelsea's definitely the prominent character, but you're just gonna get some more viewpoints, some more points of view. Because I want you to know where they're coming from in book 3.
Yeah.
So book 3 is probably gonna be Toddy and Romeo.
Oh.
Because I still want a strong woman character. So it'll probably be Toddy and Romeo.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm excited for that. Is the second one done then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but so when will it is it available now or do we have to wait?
Well, it's got to go to the editor.
Okay.
So it'll probably, I just finished it. It'll probably be beginning of September, 1st of the month.
Oh, cool. We'll do it right when it comes out so we can talk about it and promote it. And is it called Mama's
Baby, Daddy's Murder?
Mama's Baby's Daddy Murder. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. So anything else? So you're coming to visit next week. So if you guys are watching this.
I'll be home next week. I'll probably stay for about a month.
Oh, good. And are you going to try to do any of the outdoor shows or anything? Have you talked to anybody about it?
Some of these live videos are scaring me. I'm not seeing enough masks. So I'm taking it easy. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say yes. I'm just going to look and see.
Yeah, because there's some at drive-ins on projectors. Yeah. There's some in yards. You know, we did a little Ohm show that only had staff of Ohm. And we live streamed it.
Oh, you streamed it? Okay.
Yeah, so people are doing things, you know.
Yeah, right now I'm at a point where if you ask me for the show, I'm going to ask you a nice little laundry list of like, okay, is everything being wiped down? How many mics are you swapping them out?
Yeah, swapping them out. Yeah.
As much as I love comedy, I would think that would be the stupidest reason to get COVID. I can't imagine.
Right.
My son telling my grandkids like, oh yeah, grandma, we lost her to a comedy show, you know.
Oh no!
I can't justify that one in my spirit. I just can't. So, I gotta just see. I'm not against it. I want to see. I just want to see how people are moving.
Right. Well, I loved the book. If you're listening, you have to get this book and get excited for the next one. And you can get it at shortybooks.com.
Yeah.
Yep, you can get the digital download. And I'm gonna go out with a different song. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Can you hear what it is?
Wait, it went away.
Turn it up.
It is up. It's Law and Order.
Oh my God. Who remixed Law and Order theme song?
What'd you say?
Is that a remix?
No, it just sounds funky.
It sounds like somebody remixed it or something. Oh no, that's
No.
the legit intro to SVU.
Yeah, that's it. That's the theme song.
Oh, it's so funny, Shirley.
It's classic. It's classic. So thanks so much, Heather J.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me put the book up one more time. You can get on Amazon too. If you want to crack a spine, she'll send it to you.
Yes. Thanks so much for being on, and you know, good luck in every single thing you're doing. And as soon as the next one is available, we'll do another show and talk all about it. Does that sound good?
Find out what
I
happened.
can't wait to hear. I'm like, now I just want to hear your opinion. I'm like, I just want to hear. I can't wait to hear what you think of the second book. I just can't wait.
I can't wait. I really can't wait.
We're excited. We're excited. Okay, guys, have a great day. And
Bye, ladies. Thank you so much. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.